My name is Alex Vetter. I'm the marketing manager here at EasyMorph. So if you guys have been on previous webinars before or our community discussions, you probably know me. Um, but we're thrilled to having you join us for today's session, how to prepare for the trends in data analytics in 2026. Please note this session will be recorded, so be aware of that. Today, we're going to look at the agenda. We'll briefly go over a quick overview of what we're talking about, and then we'll switch topics about what 2026 is going to look like for data analytics, where we'll explore facts and statistics that showcase what's to come. For the next section, we'll have a quick demonstration to show how you can get rid of silos and fragmentation. We'll showcase how you can improve collaboration across your team and organization. And then we'll have a Q&A, so feel free to leave comments or questions in chat throughout the webinar. So if you've been on some of our webinars before, we already know these two guys. We have two of our in-house experts joining us. First, we have Dmitry Gudkov, who's our founder at EasyMorph, and then we have Matt Fryer, our technology evangelist. Both have over 25 years of experience in the data analytics industry, and they have decades of experience helping teams collaborate and simplify their data-related processes. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Dmitry.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. And by the way, we've planned today's webinar so that we have more time at the end in case of someone of our visitors will have a question, so we can discuss it more without being limited that much in time. Right, so you should see my screen by now. Can you?
Yes, we can see your screen, Dmitry.
Okay, perfect. So let's continue. As there is a good saying that future already exists today, which means that whatever happens today will shape the future. And that's why we can look at today's at the current trends, and we can use it as a basis for extrapolation of what's going to happen next year and maybe in the next few years. So I will start with the continuing business automation. Well, this process started probably in the 70s of the last century, and that has been going on for more than 50 years. It keeps going, and we see more and more business processes are automated, and more and more applications and platforms, cloud-based, on premises, more and more applications are in use. And well, there is the common thinking that there is an app for that. Whatever you do, let's say, for instance, we at EasyMorph at some point we wanted to automate our timesheets for our employees. Well, there are lots of applications on the market for organizing timesheets, and basically whatever need you might have, there is an app for that. So, and that's an ongoing trend. It's a long-term trend, and it will probably continue. Despite the wide propagation of the cloud apps and cloud in general, and the cloud infrastructure is extremely well developed nowadays, and there are lots of SaaS applications and platforms, we can see that the IT landscape in organization remains mostly hybrid. It means that it's rare to see an organization, if it even exists, where absolutely all applications and systems are in the cloud. And on the other end, it's extremely rare to see an organization that has all the systems and applications exclusively on premises or in a private cloud. So the IT landscape remains hybrid, where there is no strong distinction between intranet and internet. it's all mixed. It's all hybrid. It's a hybrid landscape, and it will probably remain like that. Second, well, it's hard to not mention the elephant in the room. Generative AI, Gen AI, getting lots of attention. I see it because of two reasons. Well, first of all, it's a genuinely interesting technology, and it's in a way it's a breakthrough in computer science that became possible due to advances in hardware, most of all because the concept of neural networks is not new. And of course, well, there is a degree of hype around it, which is expectable, and fueled by lots of capital investment. But this where that way it's getting a lot of attention, and it's not entirely groundless because as we can see, many experimentation going on, and some of these experiments bring interesting results, and the Gen AI technology can be used in practice, and there are some practical use cases for that. Although it's still early days of the technology, there is a lot of experimentation. There are many attempts to figure out what works, what doesn't, and as it happens with all new technologies, there is a clear lack of tooling in the market. So whatever is knocked together using LLMs looks, let's be honest, hacky, and clearly there is a big room for development and improvement in terms of tooling and technology. And lastly, I wanted to mention that, well, the work culture is changing, and this is probably an aspect that many didn't expect during this call, but we will talk about this as well. And to announce, as we will see it a little bit later, a new generation dominates the workforce, and this has outcomes. So now let's start looking at the findings. We talked about multiple business applications in use, and as one of the research done in 2024, done by Better Cloud. So they discovered that in an average organization, more than 100 different SaaS applications are in use, and in large organizations, it jumps to 130 applications used by the organization. That's a lot. That's a lot. 100 different SaaS applications and cloud applications used by inside an organization. That's a lot. We at EasyMorph, we are a small company. We have just 23 people. But even us, a small company, when we tried to count all the applications that we use, well, we stopped at 30. So we have more apps than employees in our company. All that says something. Another finding, although this one is a bit old, it was done in 2023. I believe it's still actual, it's still valid. And according to the research made by Asana, it's a task management platform. Employees use on average 9 applications per day. So today it can be 9, it can be 10, it can be 8, but in any case, I don't think the number of applications used per day today is very different from 9. And 9, that's a lot. It means that an average person needs to switch between 9 different applications, and every application has its own user interface, has its own concept, principle, and well, you have to learn, you have to understand how to use every application. And let's be honest, many enterprise applications are not very user friendly. They are, well, we as a company director, I have to deal with procurement systems in large organizations, and that's not a good example of a user-friendly application. Let's put it mildly. Another research. Well, we talked about 100 cloud and SaaS applications, but how many data sources in general can exist in an enterprise? And that number is even bigger. According to another research made by Selberry in 2024, the average enterprise used around 400 different data sources. Think about that, 400 different data sources. Just listing all of them would take several pages. And then every data source has some kind of business entities there: customers, transactions, orders, employees, accounts, balances, and whatnot. So 400. So every such data source probably has some data model or some kind of entities or whatever else is in that system. So we are talking about thousands of pieces of information and data entities in disconnected systems. And again, that from my personal experience before switching to using more full-time, I worked in a big bank in Canada, and at that time, that was 12 years ago. At that time, the bank had something like 500 applications. So probably today it's even more than that. So it's a huge number. Again, by the same research, in large organizations, the number of data sources may jump to almost 1,000 data sources, which are used daily. A huge number. And as you can imagine, nothing is really integrated well. So it's all isolated. It's all pretty much disconnected. So it's a quite fragmented IT landscape. Another research, it's more fresh. It's a research of this year, made by Bark. It's a smaller analytical agency, although it's been on the market for quite a long time. I remember Bark reports from 15 years ago or so. So they surveyed priorities of data analytics leaders, and interestingly, the fundamentals of data management, such as data quality, privacy, security, governance, they are on the top positions for data analytics leaders. And as the same research shows, hot topics widely discussed in social media and in the internet, such as agentic AI, while they do exist, they are present on the radars. They are not the top priority. So data engineering fundamentals still dominate the mind share of data analytics leaders, and for a good reason. If your data is disconnected, if your data is garbage, you cannot extract much value, and AI won't help you with that either. Another interesting finding discovered by Glassdoor. It's a big salary survey and salary monitoring company, broadly known. So they did a research this year, and they discovered that millennials have become the largest managerial workforce. And to be precise, millennials have already dominated the workforce since 2016, but this year another quality shift occurred, which is millennials have become the largest managerial workforce. It means that, well, when it comes to data and analytics and automation, it's the millennials who work with data, work with applications, who define how organizations will structure their work, what tools organizations will use. And well, millennials, it's a generation that has its own preferences. And as you know, millennials are more technology aware than the previous generations like Gen X or boomers. And but also importantly that millennials they have lower tolerance towards complexity, and that will definitely define the attitude and the views on IT systems and applications. So if we project trends in 2026, so what can we expect next year and probably next few years? Well, first of all, a large number of business applications in use will remain, and those applications will remain disconnected and highly fragmented. Well, that's the world we live in today. Because of that, users will still be forced to switch between applications and every time. So, and that creates a drag on productivity, because again, you have to learn every application, you have to understand how it works, and it's hard to move data. Let's say if I made a list of customers in one application, just bring it to another for analysis or for putting additional details. Well, that can be challenging. It's not a straightforward process. Second, experimentations with AI will continue, and more organizations will look for ways how to get value out of their AI experiments, see what works in practice, and then scale it within organizations. And that will be a challenge. Well, first of all, because working with AI and extracting anything of AI requires good data fundamentals, and for many organizations that's still a challenge. And second, making AI tools and models to a broader audience is a challenge, because, well, there are many frameworks built in Python to work with AI tools and models, but not everybody in organization is comfortable with Python. So how are you going to overcome that? So that's definitely a challenge. And third, the millennial workforce will set the work culture, whether we like it or not. This is the reality, that the new generation has their own preferences, and they have their own views, and that will define how data and analytics and automation will develop next year. So what us as a company, what can we do? What can we offer to address these trends and challenges that we see next year? So, and today we want to present and demonstrate a data framework for the future. A data framework for teams that would help tackle data fragmentation, that would help improve collaboration, and that would make life easier for people who work with data and analytics and who need to organize their work in order to achieve their goals in organizations. So so what are the main principles of this data framework? First of all, we would like to offer a way how to combine data and applications into one unifying framework, into one network. So how we are proposing to do this? So first of all, we suggest viewing data and applications used in organizations as virtualized data assets. So what's that? Like virtualized assets? What is it about? Well, the idea is simple. So let me elaborate on this. So imagine, so we have multiple organizations in use in an organizations. But if you look closely at those organizations, we will see that those applications, we will see that they are kind of, they can be generalized to just a few types, and we can present every system as a certain asset of a certain type. For instance, we have file storage system. We can have applications like Google Drive or OneDrive or SharePoint or maybe Azure Blob Storage or something else. But in if you look at them from if you look at them from a higher perspective, one second. If you look at them from higher perspective, we can see that they basically do the same thing. They store files. So no matter if you work with Google Drive or OneDrive, you can download and upload files. And this is an example of abstraction. So we can mark, or we can have these services represented as an asset that is a file storage where you can upload and download files. That's one example. Another example, let's think about Salesforce. So Salesforce is a cloud CRM, but in Salesforce, you can see the data in Salesforce is actually tabular data. So there are records organized in tables. And there are many other applications like Salesforce that where data like ERP systems or HR management or general ledger systems. So data can be organized and viewed as tables, as records. It means that we can represent them or abstract them away as tabular data sets. And then we have, for instance, scripts and programs like Python scripts or programs written in R. And they can also be abstracted away because in most cases, these programs, they have inputs and they have outputs. So we may be able to trigger these programs without understanding the exact implementation details, but just providing the inputs and collecting the outputs. So that's another example, and so on. So we can abstract away and we can virtualize data and applications that are in use. We can generalize them to several types of assets with known features and known capabilities. And as the next step, when they are abstracted away and when we know those features and capabilities, we can link them. So for instance, if we have a customer in Salesforce, then there is a document related to this customer, maybe it's an agreement, then we can pull it from Google Drive, because we know that, well, Salesforce it's a record, and we can have a document that is associated with this record, and this document is stored in Google Drive. So in one click, we can go and retrieve a document from belonging to a particular record in Salesforce, but we can retrieve it from Google Drive. and such links, they can be meaningful, they can be contextual, and what they enable navigation and exploration. So those links, they bring together, they glue together various disconnected assets in your organization, even if you have hundreds of them. And finally, we offer single UI, single application that allows browsing, exploring, and navigating from one virtualized asset to another virtualized asset, from a dataset to files, from metrics to web pages, from algorithms to datasets. There is a single UI that allows navigating across all the assets that you have in your organization, while remaining without the same application, without switching the context. Interestingly, this virtualization is also relevant for algorithms. And when we talked about making AI accessible to multiple people, to a broader audience in your organizations, this is exactly how this can be done, where algorithms, machine learning, AI models, and algorithms, they can be abstracted away as computations or as workflows. They can be abstracted away as black boxes with known inputs, known outputs, and by abstracting away such algorithms, you can make them available to less technical people in your organization, where they can use them on their own in a self-service manner when it's necessary, without dealing with the complexities of Python scripting or whatever other implementation mechanism it may have. So that's the general principle. Now let's see how it works in practice. And I'm passing the microphone to Matt, who will demonstrate what it looks like from a practical perspective. Matt?
Thank you. Hopefully you can all see my screen. So as Dimitri said, a lot of these concepts of abstraction, of data, of systems, of programs or AI and machine learning, they are kind of quite complex topics, but they're very easy to understand if we apply them to a simple example. So let's take a fictitious scenario that's hopefully very common to all of you. I have a company, and we're just going to look at the sales and sort of invoicing process within that company. Just in that process alone, and what is likely a very simplified version of that process, we have three different sets of data or systems involved. We have Salesforce, which is our CRM system, where we store all the information about our customers, our sales opportunities with them, and hopefully when we win those opportunities, the orders they place with us. For those orders to be actually invoiced and billed to the customer, though, that's a different system involved and a different department. And so we have a finance system. Our finance system is a fictitious one, but it's on premise, and so it has a database in the background. And so Salesforce is in the cloud. We also have our finance system on premise. And our finance system, as well as invoices, needs to also have a list of customers, which means we've got two locations for that information about our customers to be stored. And we need to make sure that those two sets of data are up to date, so that if the customer told one of the sales team that their email address for the invoices to be sent to had changed and they updated it in Salesforce, that also needs to be copied across into our finance system, so that when we bill them, we get the invoice to the right address. And that's normally a manual effort. That's a sort of labor-intensive process, and as soon as that's a manual process, then things can get missed. And to invoice our customers, we also need them to have given us a purchase order document. And so I've stored our purchase order documents on Google Drive, but as Dimitri mentioned, these could be files located anywhere that EasyMorph supports. That could be on EasyMorph server, it could be any network drive in your organization, as well as cloud services like Google Drive, Dropbox, Amazon S3 storage, Azure Blob Storage, etc. So those sort of three disparate systems and sets of data are completely siloed, and then don't talk to each other. Now, to solve this problem, traditionally, we'd either have to have systems that did talk to each other and they support communicating with each other, but that may mean changing these systems out for other ones, or even adopting a big ERP system, which covers both sales and finance in one system, so that we've got all of that data in one place. But this is a very simple process, and as the data and the stats that Dimitri looked at about the fact that businesses have well over 100 applications, clearly even an ERP system doesn't solve all of that problems. And so there's plenty of scenarios like this in a business, even when they do have an ERP system, where there's still other systems outside of that world, other silos of data that we need to try and bring together. We can, of course, probably suck all of this information into a BI tool or a reporting tool, but that doesn't solve the problem of syncing our customers across our different systems. And also, BI tools are a one-way street. They provide information to users, but they don't let them easily take action on that data when they need to. So let's take a look at some of the features and functionality to automate this and hopefully solve some of this siloed problem in this example system. So as I said, we've used Salesforce. This is a demo dummy Salesforce instance, but in here we have our accounts. That's all our customers. And if we pick any of them, we can see that we have opportunities for these customers, etc. So all this data is here. And thankfully, EasyMorph has great connectivity to Salesforce, as it does to most cloud-based systems. And so we can actually extract this data and update data in Salesforce. We also have our fictitious finance system. And as I said, there is a database in the background of this finance system. So our database, I could query, and I can write SQL queries to access that data. So I can, for example, get a list of all of our customers. But again, I need to keep these in sync between those two systems and access all of this data. And one of the problems for our sales team, for example, is if they are in talking to a customer and the customer maybe is asking for a discount, then they'd like to see their billing history for that customer, not just the orders, but are they paying them on time? Because if they've got 10 outstanding invoices they've not paid, we probably shouldn't be giving them a discount on their next order as they're requesting. So getting this information to our sales team could be really valuable. We probably don't want to, and finance, I'm sure, would object to us giving access to the finance system for our sales team to be able to access that, because we want to keep our financial accounting information ring-fenced and secure. So we need a way to do that without exposing that to them by giving them logins to those systems where they could make changes and potentially cause problems. And as I mentioned, we've got Google Drive in this instance, where I've got all of our purchase order documents from our customers when they send those in as well. So let's take a look at how we can solve some of those issues using EasyMorph. Now, the first is just to sync those two lists of customers between our two systems. And our systems don't interact, but that's not a problem. We can automate that process with EasyMorph. Because EasyMorph workflows can interact with both Salesforce and our database, then we can build a task, build a workflow in EasyMorph to be able to synchronize our list of customers between those two disparate systems. And so I have a synchronized customers task, which is scheduled in EasyMorph server, which runs once an hour and updates those two sets of customers. And so if I run it, it will go and check Salesforce for the list of customers. It will go check our in-house finance system for the list of customers as well. It identifies any changes and it syncs them across so that our customers are always up to date and synced across those two important platforms. And obviously, as well as scheduling it, as I just did, we can run it manually. So if one of those two teams, sales or finance, need to make sure it's synced for whatever reason before they make a decision, they can manually run that as well. So that's synchronizing those two systems. But what about accessing all of those siloed sets of data and making them available to those different teams without having to have access to all of those different systems, navigate between them, know which piece of information is in which system. That's a big set of headache, and that's a lot of problems. And so EasyMorph Server Explorer gives us a lot of that capability. First, I'll take a brief look at the catalog, as we covered in the previous webinar, which you can go back and watch the rerun of if you want to see more. But the catalog allows me to add assets, and those assets can be both data, but they can also be other associated information as well. So I have assets for all of those critical sets of information within those different systems. I've got assets for my customers, for my invoices, for my opportunities. I've also got a link to our purchase order documents as well, and I can link those documents within EasyMorph Server using a connector, just as we would in an EasyMorph workflow. And any of those documents then can become available to access on that location, that cloud service, which happens to be Google Drive, but it could be any other service. And in fact, if I need to move those documents for whatever reason, the nice thing about having them accessible within EasyMorph Server to the users is that I can just switch that connector to point to the new location where they've been moved to, Amazon S3 storage or wherever else they might have gone, and the users don't need to know. They can still come to here, still find them in exactly the same place, even though they've actually physically and technically been moved in the background. As well as those sort of files, we can have links to other systems, etc. So in my catalog, I've also got links to my SharePoint instance, to my finance system. I've also got metrics giving us updates. And a catalog can very quickly become a very large thing with lots and lots of assets in it. And so to make that much easier for my sales team or my finance team or whatever to access and find the information, I can build boards. And so I've built a board for our sales team to be able to see the information they need to see and also get any data that's accessible to them. So I've got a few metrics on here telling me some key information, and this board could be much more complex with lots of more information on it. But I've kept it simple just to try and show how easy it is to use these boards and the features of the catalog and the assets to build very complex webs of information and data that users can navigate in one place that can be coming from all of those disparate sources without them needing to go to all of those different systems and find the right information for them. So let's start off really simply with my customers. Now, as I said, these are synced between my finance and sales system, so it doesn't really matter where they come from. But EasyMorph Server will go and get those for me and give me the list of all of my customers. And as we're used to in the analysis view in both desktop and EasyMorph Server, I can filter those customers in various different ways by any of that data and interact with it like we expect data sets to be. As Dimitri said, we can link data sets together though. And so I'm not just faced with a list of customers and then a completely disparate list of invoices or a list of opportunities. I can connect these things together. So the first thing I've done is I provided a link to actually view this in Salesforce if I have access. And so I can actually click on the link. EasyMorph will open Salesforce and take me straight to that specific customer in Salesforce for me to be able to navigate to them and see extra information that might not be in that original data set. We also can link to other sets of information as well. So I could link out to other services and things, so I can create links to things like Google Maps as well from the address to take us to find that information, as well as other data sets in that catalog. So based on the account number of a given individual customer, I can start to navigate to those other data sets and explore the data that's relevant to one of these customers. So I want to see the open opportunities for my first customer. Again, I don't need to know what system this is coming from or how it's being generated. I have to simply click it, and EasyMorph workflows sitting in the background of those assets in the catalog and in our board take care of all of the hard work and the technical detail. And I can continue to further explore from here. Again, I could view that individual opportunity within Salesforce, or for my closed opportunities, maybe I want to be able to see the invoice to see if that invoice was sent to the customer and how they paid it. So again, I can click on an individual invoice and instantly navigate through to that invoice to see the details of it. Have they paid it? Yes, they have, and it's been paid on time as well. So all of that information is very quickly available to me without lots of navigating to all of these disparate systems and having to know how and where to go. And equally, those purchase orders documents can be linked as well. So I can ask for the purchase order document that was associated to this. EasyMorph will go and find that document on Google Drive for me, and it will offer me it as a download, and I can open that purchase order and view the details as well. So the sales team now has access to all of that information. They don't have to go to all of these disparate systems or have lots of different logins and access within this simple functionality to just drill into that information and navigate to the different sets of data. We can explore the data set, find the important information, and hopefully act on it as quickly as possible. And that's an important point is as I mentioned, business intelligence systems are very much a one-way street. They get data to a user, but they don't always or very rarely allow the users to act on that information directly. So as a member of the sales team looking at this order, if there is a problem with this invoice, I need to raise that with my finance system. And that probably means making notes of the details, going away and writing an email or sending a message on Teams or Slack or whatever messaging service. Well, we can do those things, send messages, send emails as part of EasyMorph workflows. So again, we can automate them and build them in here. I chose, instead of sending a message, I've chose to raise an invoice query using EasyMorph's boards features for issues lists. And so I've added an action in this set of data to raise a problem with this invoice. And I can give the detail I want, I can send that away, and that will raise an issue, as we'll see in a second, to the finance team to say there's a problem with this invoice. I need you to take a look at it and try and resolve it for me. I haven't had to go away to yet another system, to another tool to try and send that message to the finance team. So if we go back to our board, we can take a look at those issues. And as I say, I chose EasyMorph's issue lists on our board, but those issues could equally be sent to a different ticketing system as well, or we could also send Teams and Slack messages and things to the relevant groups or teams. But I chose an issue, and as you can see, the workflow has attached the information about the invoice to it, as well as my comment that I need you to take a look at this problem. And even it's added a link to that issue for me directly to that invoice in the finance system to help the finance team navigate directly to it and answer my question as quickly as possible. So not only are we helping people find information that they want, but we're making what they need to do to act on that information and resolve problems as easy and as quick to action and do as is possible. And collaboration between those sales team and that finance team to resolve these problems, keep the customers happy, and move to on to the next problem and be as productive as we possibly can. So hopefully that's given you a quick look at how one very simple scenario was been able to bring together 3 disparate systems or sets of data and make them easily accessible to our business users to make their lives easier and as quick as possible for them to act and access on the information they need. I'll pass back to Dimitri to continue on and talk a bit more about what we're looking to do with the technology in the future.
Thank you, Matt. Just a few words where it's all going. So next year, early next year, we will be releasing a new version of EasyMorph, version 6. And it will we will rename EasyMorph server to EasyMorph Hub to reflect its role as the hub that connects systems and people and data together in one environment. It will have a new look and feel, a bit more polished than what you've seen. And it will become the foundation for the further development, where we will keep adding more integrations, more ways to work with data, to interact with it. But all the functionality is already here. All the fundamentals are already implemented. So it's Explorer. It's a working product that is already in use by some of our customers. So if you have any questions, if you would like to take a look at it, if you want to have a call with us and talk in more detail how this can be practically useful in your organization, you are welcome to do this. And today we still have time left. So if you have any questions or suggestions or any other feedback, if you're thinking that makes sense or maybe it doesn't make sense, well, please go ahead and speak up. So, and I suggest switching to the questions and answers part of our webinar.
All right. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to put them in chat. We are very ready to hear from you.
Well, first of all, does it, what we've discussed in this webinar, does it make sense for you? Do you think we are missing the point, or do you think we are onto something? What do you think of it? Alex, can we? I think we still have everybody muted.
Oh, let me go ahead and allow everyone to talk.
All right, we see a remark from Susan. Susan says, "Awesome, on point." Well, thank you, Susan.
Yeah, if you guys would like to unmute yourselves, you're free to talk.
Yeah. So yeah, the points are really interesting. I thought it interesting that, you know, where you mentioned everybody uses about 9 applications during the day. I never even really thought about that so much, but I would imagine, you know, that's probably pretty much on target. And it really, you know, for all the various workers that we have at our company, they're using a lot of different things. You know, things that we've built in-house, external applications, you know, the main ERP. And one of the things that's interesting with our ERP is that it's such a complex system that everybody inside of it is really only an expert in the particular area that they work in, not so much for the whole system. And so, yeah, complexity is a real problem for our business. It's hard to know everything about everything.
Yeah, it's one of the other things, sort of the virtualization aspects that can be valuable, is that even in those big ERP systems, behind the scenes the data is stored in a very technical way, and often the user interfaces present that data to people in relatively similar ways, and that doesn't always make sense to them if they're not the expert in the finance bit of it or whatever. They're not familiar with using it, they might struggle to find it. And one of the nice things is sort of virtualizing that into a data set as an asset in EasyMorph is I can manipulate that data and bring together different pieces of information and then present it in a way that makes sense to the user, in a business sense, as opposed to technically what is it, how is it stored, how do I need to plumb it together. So even if one system is involved, I might not know where to go and get all of that disparate information to find it, because it isn't necessarily put together behind the scenes exactly how my business operates or functions.
Yeah, that's true.
Any other
have
comments? Oh yeah, go ahead, Dimitri.
I have an interesting example about how disconnected our systems in big organizations. Once in a while, I go to my bank branch, and the bank worker needs to look up certain things in my account, but because they have multiple disconnected systems in the bank, what she does, she pushes a button on the check-in machine to get just a small piece of paper. Then she writes with the pencil my account number on that piece of paper, and then just goes to another application on your computer and then enters the bank the account number by reading it from that piece of paper. So because there is no integration between these two systems, so and apparently they can't even copy because, well, it's a desktop application or something. She can't even copy my account number, so she has to write it down on a piece of paper. So that's clearly they need something like Explorer. We still have time. Please go ahead and speak up, and like if you have suggestions, or maybe I believe the point about abstraction might be not obvious because, well, this is new. Nothing like that exists on the market, so it's an innovative approach. I wonder if you have any concerns about it, or if you have any suggestions or questions about it.
Yeah, if you guys want to unmute your mic or drop something in chat, I saw a few people already drop something. Knut and Susan, thank you for that. Also, just speaking about the trends that we shared, if you have any comments on the trends or, AI, that could be something you could bring up, and Dimitri and Matt could talk about that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Knut.
Yes. I think the concept here is very, very interesting. If we first think on the virtualization side, I mean, we have here an extremely powerful ETL system that are able to fetch data. What I see today is typically we have to first fetch data and then save it, and then in another system try to achieve what we actually are able to achieve here in a virtual way. So I think this is extremely powerful, and if we are able to make a user interface so people are able to navigate here, I think this has really a really strong potential. And to me, what you just said about kind of this generic abstraction away, it's a kind of hard to see all the implications, but I think this is a very, very strong concept as well. So feedback from me, very, very interesting. And the strength of this, if we are able to put the virtualization up to a certain dimension, it's a huge potential.
Thank you, Knut. Two more interesting implications of the data virtualization. The first is that it can serve as a single security layer. Single security layer, because once you have assets virtualized, and you have one single point of access, like how you access these resources. It's a convenient place where to set up roles and rules, access permissions. So data such as data and asset virtualization works well as an access control mechanism as well. And second, because it's virtualized, it means that there is no copying data, and it means that data is always up to date. Well, this is something that is underestimated because yes, there are those concepts with like data lakes or cloud warehouses where there is basically one big pile of data, but most frequently it's a copy. It's a copy of data. They are still needed. I'm not saying they are not necessary. They are still needed in many cases, and they simplify things. But we have to keep in mind that it's always a copy. And while there are attempts to make it real-time, streaming, architecture, and that complicates things a lot, first of all. And second, they may still not resolve the problem. While here we users always have access to the most up-to-date information just by pushing a button and receiving it in some form.
Just a follow-up question. Would it in next stage or the stage after that be possible to expose this virtual data sets as they are in memory to other applications?
That's a very good question. Nud. And the answer is yes. We plan to eventually expose data sets as OData sources.
And I think when you start to let the imagination run and think about opportunities here, I think this is really fascinating. What we can do if we can't get away with actually have to save data in order to expose it to other systems, then you have done a major step change into this.
Yeah, I think there was a report by Gartner a few years ago that estimated that 80% of Excel spreadsheets have at least one human induced error in them. And the only thing that surprised me about that it wasn't more than 80%. As many as you're copying, pasting, and people are sort of to try and bring those different data sets from different places together into one location so they can get one table of data and build what they need from it for a report, then people make mistakes and as well. And so just that ability to automate getting those different data sets as well as the real-time nature and all of those things, but just getting them in an automated way that's defined once, that's tested, and that you know that every time you do that and run that, you get the correct set of data, because one of us and sort of fallible human beings is not involved in trying to put all that together. You also know that data is accurate and you can trust it, and that data virtualization aspect gives it that. And obviously you can virtualize the sort of other things. So where you want to get more advanced with AI and Python, machine learning, etc., you can virtualize those things, and to the end user, they don't need to understand that it's a very complex machine learning algorithm in Python that's doing some pushing and heavy lifting to generate a set of information for you. To them, it's a single asset, and they just ask for it, and EasyMorph takes care of generating that in the background and presenting it to them in exactly the same way as if it was a table of data just coming from a database or a spreadsheet.
I mean, if you look at the applications that actually run in processes, you have technology as DuckDB or SQLite, where you when you actually run in processes, then you work with data sets that's already in memory. There's no copying. It's extremely fast, extremely flexible, and you get the best out of of both of the, let's say, programs that are able to run in the same process. And if you're able to achieve some of those effects by exposing virtual data as if it was in one process, then it would be very, very powerful.
Well, to be fair, you can already expose virtual assets through APIs. It's just because Isomorph already has this custom API capability. It's just that now it's a little bit less convenient because you have to design a workflow that would generate, for instance, a JSON from this virtual asset. But it's still possible. It's still possible, and since Isomorph it's a visual automation tool, it's not that hard to do. But when we will have the ability to expose them as OData sources, then even that part will not be necessary. So because all the data sources will be available immediately as OData sources. All right. Seems like we are the time ran fast. So we've approached the end. Alex.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Be on the lookout for the email that we'll send within a day. And on that email, you should see a small 2-pager about what we went over today, as well as a recording of this webinar. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for your questions, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.